Welcome to the deep dive. You guys have been wanting to learn more about Little Manitou Falls in Wisconsin, and you've sent us a ton of great stuff, articles, blog posts, even a YouTube video. So get ready to explore this incredible natural wonder. We've got hiking guides, historical accounts of Pattison State Park, and even a first-hand experience from someone who braved the snow to see the falls.
It's amazing how much information is out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's so cool how these different perspectives come together to kind of paint a complete picture. We're not just going to uncover the basic facts about Little Manitou Falls. We're going to delve into its geological history, Native American significance, and even some surprising connections to the Great Depression.
I love that. That's what I love about these deep dives. We're not just skimming the surface, we're going deep. So first things first, where exactly is Little Manitou Falls?
Little Manitou Falls is nestled along the Black River in Pattison State Park, Wisconsin. And here's a little fun fact.
Right.
It's actually upstream from Big Manitou Falls, which is Wisconsin's highest waterfall.
Hold on, so Little Manitou is upstream from the big one. That seems a bit backwards.
It does, doesn't it? But don't be fooled by the name. Little Manitou is still pretty impressive, standing at 30 feet high and 50 feet wide. That's almost like a four-story building cascading down.
Wow, I'm starting to picture it. And this Pattison State Park, it sounds like more than just a pretty backdrop for the falls. What can you tell us about the park itself?
The park is a geological wonder in its own right. It's divided by the Douglas Fault, which has created these dramatic rock formations. Just imagine millions of years ago, volcanic activity and shifting tectonic plates shaped this landscape. The fault line really adds another layer of visual interest to the park beyond the stunning waterfalls.
Okay, so we've got dramatic cliffs, ancient geological forces. Sounds incredible. Are there any other remnants of that distant past still visible today?
There are. Scattered throughout the park, you can find evidence of old mines. These remnants kind of hint at a history of human activity intertwined with the natural landscape. Speaking of history, the Ojibwa people, who have called this area home for centuries, had deep connections to the falls and the river.
That's what I was hoping we'd get into. So beyond Little Manitou, what names did they have for these landmarks? I'm always fascinated by how indigenous cultures named and understood the natural world.
The Ojibwa names are beautiful and evocative. They called the Black River Mukadiwa Sibi. Big Manitou Falls was known as Bohiwam Sasijwan, which translates to Laughing Rapids below Big Manitou, and Little Manitou Falls was called Kakabika Bungi, or Little Waterfalls. What's fascinating is how those names often describe not just the physical features, but also the sounds and the energy of a place.
It's like they're painting a picture with words capturing the essence of the falls. What else can you tell us about the Ojibwa people and their relationship with this area?
They believe they could hear the voice of the Great Spirit, Gitche Manitou, in the roar of Big Manitou Falls. It wasn't just a beautiful spot, it was a sacred one, a place where they could connect with the divine.
It really adds another dimension to the whole experience. It's not just about the visual beauty, it's about that sense of awe and connection that people have felt in this place for generations.
Exactly. And that connection extended to practical uses as well. They quarried quartz near the base of the falls, which they used to create tools and weapons. Just imagine, for centuries, people have been drawn to this spot, utilizing the resources the land provided.
It makes you realize how deeply intertwined human history is with the natural world. Okay, so we've got ancient geological forces, spiritual significance for the Ojibwa people, and even evidence of early tool making. What other stories does this place hold?
Well, remember those old mine shafts we mentioned earlier? Turns out both Native Americans and European settlers were drawn to this area during the copper rush. They saw the potential for wealth hidden beneath the surface, and that ambition definitely left its mark on the landscape.
So alongside those ancient quartz quarries, we've also got remnants of copper mines. It's incredible to think about how different groups of people separated by time and culture were drawn to this same spot for different reasons.
It really speaks to the layered history of this place. You've got the Ojibwa people's long-standing connection, followed by the arrival of European settlers seeking fortune. And it doesn't stop there. This land has also seen the rise and fall of industries and even played a role in national recovery efforts.
Wait, are you talking about the Great Depression? I remember reading something about that.
You're exactly right. And this is where the story of Little Manitou Falls takes a fascinating turn. But before we get into that, let's take a moment to appreciate the natural beauty of the falls themselves. We've talked about their size and location, but what makes Little Manitou truly unique?
Okay, let's zoom in on the waterfall itself. What makes it stand out from, say, just any random cascade in the woods?
One of Little Manitou's most distinctive features is its split flow. The water doesn't just tumble down in a single sheet. It actually divides into two separate cascades. Imagined almost like the waterfall can't decide which path to take, so it chooses both.
That's so cool. I can see why photographers would love this place. Have you come across any particularly striking images?
There are some truly breathtaking shots. One that comes to mind is an autumn photograph from Little Manitou Falls, Space. The foliage is like ablaze with color, and it creates this stunning contrast against the white water. It just perfectly captures the serenity and beauty of the falls.
Oh, wow. I can practically picture it. And the YouTuber who visited mentioned how quiet and peaceful it was, though he did have a bit of an adventure getting there trudging through deep snow.
He did, but he said it was worth every step. Imagine just standing there surrounded by the stillness of nature with the sound of the falls echoing through the trees. It must be an incredible experience.
It sounds like the perfect escape from the everyday hustle and bustle. Okay, back to that Great Depression connection. What role did Little Manitou Falls play during that era?
Well, during the Depression, President Roosevelt created the Civilian Conservation Corps, or CCC, as part of his New Deal program. It was a way to provide employment for young men, while also investing in the country's natural resources. And Pattison State Park became one of the many sites where these young men worked.
So those trails we've been talking about, the ones that make the falls so accessible, those were built by the CCC.
Exactly. They built trails, shelters, and even reshaped the landscape around Inner Falls Lake. They were skilled laborers, quarrying rock and chiseling it into blocks to construct buildings that still stand today.
That's incredible. To think that during a time of such economic hardship, these young men were not only earning a living, but also creating something beautiful and lasting for future generations to enjoy.
Their work at Pattison State Park is a powerful reminder of the impact the CCC had on our national parks and forests. They left a legacy that we still benefit from today. And speaking of legacies, we can't forget about Martin Pattison himself. He was one who donated the land for the park, ensuring that these falls would be preserved for everyone to enjoy.
That's right. He was a lumberman and miner who recognized the importance of protecting this natural wonder. He actually purchased 660 acres along the river to prevent a power dam from being built, which would have destroyed Big Manitou Falls.
It's an inspiring story, isn't it? He could have easily profited from the land, but instead he chose to protect it. That one act of generosity has had a lasting impact.
It makes you think about the power of individual action, especially when it comes to conservation. One person's vision can truly make a difference. Okay, so we've got ancient geology, Native American history, the copper rush, the CCC, and a conservation hero. What else can you tell us about the history of this area?
Well, remember that we mentioned a connection to the lumber industry. Martin Pattison himself started out as a lumberman. And in one of the sources, there's a mention of the remnants of his old logging camp along the Black River.
Wow, it's amazing to think about how many layers of history are embedded in this one place. What would it be like to stand there amongst those remnants and imagine the lumberjacks hard at work shaping the landscape?
It really connects you to the past, doesn't it? And it highlights how the history of Little Manitou Falls isn't just about individual events. It's about the interplay of different forces, natural, economic, and cultural over time.
It's like a tapestry woven from all these different threads. And what about today? What's it like to visit Little Manitou Falls in the present day?
The sources paint a picture of a truly captivating experience. One travel blog describes it as a beautiful show and highlights the dramatic geology visible from the trails. It seems like it's the perfect place to reconnect with nature and soak up the beauty of the surroundings.
And I remember one source mentioned how easily accessible the falls are. You don't have to be an experienced hiker to enjoy this spot.
Exactly. It's rated as a 1 out of 10 for difficulty, meaning it's a short, easy walk from the parking lot. It's perfect for families or anyone looking for a quick nature escape.
So it's both stunning and accessible. The best of both worlds. But beyond the falls themselves, what else does this area have to offer? What kind of plants and animals might you encounter there?
That's a great question. The sources mention that the Black River is teeming with a variety of fish species. So if you're into fishing, you might want to pack your rod. And don't forget your binoculars. Pattison State Park is known for its bird-watching opportunities. You might spot bald eagles soaring overhead or catch a glimpse of a pileated woodpecker darting between trees.
Okay, now that's an experience I can get behind. I love picturing myself immersed in that kind of natural symphony. What about the plant life?
The sources describe a lush landscape with towering pines, delicate ferns, and a wide array of other trees and plants. You can just imagine the vibrant tapestry of green that surrounds the trails, creating a truly serene and immersive atmosphere.
It sounds like the perfect place for a peaceful hike or a nature photography session. So if we were to plan a trip to Little Manitou Falls, what are some must-do activities?
Well, of course, experiencing the falls themselves is a top priority. Take your time to admire both Big Manitou Falls and Little Manitou Falls. Hike the trails, listen to the roar of the water, and breathe in the fresh air.
It sounds like the perfect way to disconnect from the digital world and recharge your batteries. What else would you recommend?
Don't miss the opportunity to visit the park's nature center. It's a great way to learn more about the local flora and fauna, the park's history, and the ongoing conservation efforts.
Adding that to my itinerary, for sure. And maybe I'll chat with the park ranger, see if they have any insider tips or stories to share.
Great idea. And while you're exploring, keep an eye out for those remnants of the old logging camp and mine shafts. It's a tangible reminder of the many layers of history that have shaped this region.
Wow, this is shaping up to be more than just a trip to a waterfall. It's like a journey through time, a chance to connect with nature history and the human spirit that has shaped this remarkable place.
Exactly. But even beyond that, there's something about Little Manitou Falls that speaks to larger themes. This seemingly small and specific location, a single waterfall in Wisconsin, actually connects to broader questions about our relationship with the natural world and the choices we make for the future.
Ooh, I love when those unexpected connections pop up. Give me an example. How does Little Manitou Falls connect to these bigger ideas?
Well, think about the story of Martin Pattison. Here's a man who achieved success in industries that often exploited natural resources, lumber and mining. Yet, he chose to use his wealth to protect this natural wonder. His story kind of makes you think about individual responsibility and the power of philanthropy, especially when it comes to conservation efforts.
It's a great example of how one person's actions can have a ripple effect, creating a positive impact that extends far beyond their own lifetime. And it's not just about grand gestures like donating land, it's about the everyday choices we make, the ways we interact with our environment, and the values we prioritize.
Absolutely. And think about the CCC workers. Their story really highlights the importance of community hard work and the enduring legacy of public service. During a time of national crisis, they came together to build something lasting and beautiful. Their efforts transformed Pattison State Park into the welcoming place it is today.
It makes you think about what we could accomplish if we could harness that same spirit of collaboration and purpose to address the environmental challenges we face today.
It's inspiring, isn't it? And, this deep dive has really shown me the importance of seeking out those hidden stories, those unexpected connections that we might miss if we're not really paying attention. Little Manitou Falls isn't just a pretty waterfall. It's a microcosm of history culture and this ongoing dialogue between humanity and the natural world.
I totally agree. It's about digging deeper, going beyond just the basic facts and engaging with the complexity of a place. It's about recognizing that everything is connected, from the geological formations to the indigenous cultures to the individual choices that shape the future.
And that engagement, that willingness to delve deeper and ask questions, is what makes learning so rewarding. It's not just about accumulating information, it's about understanding the context, the relationships, the why behind the what.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Little Manitou Falls, what are some key takeaways? What has this exploration revealed about this place and maybe even about ourselves?
Well, one of the biggest takeaways for me is the power of perspective. We've seen how Little Manitou Falls has been viewed and valued differently throughout history, from the sacred site of the Ojibwa people to the potential source of wealth for miners to the treasured natural wonder it is today.
Right. It's a good reminder that our understanding of a place is constantly evolving, shaped by our knowledge, our values, and our experiences.
Exactly. And another key takeaway is the importance of recognizing that everything is connected. Little Manitou Falls is not just a standalone waterfall. It's part of a larger ecosystem, the Black River watershed. And that watershed is connected to even larger systems, regional, national, global. The choices we make in one place can have ripple effects far beyond what we can immediately see.
It's a call to action, really. It's a reminder that we have a responsibility to understand these connections and make choices that promote the health and well-being of the entire system, not just individual parts.
And speaking of action, we can't forget the inspiring stories of Martin Pattison and the CCC workers. They remind us that individuals and communities can make a difference, even when facing huge challenges. Their legacies should inspire us to find ways to help preserve and care for the natural world.
Absolutely. Their stories show that each of us has the power to create positive change, whether it's through big actions or small everyday acts of care and responsibility.
And that brings us to a final thought-provoking question for our listeners. We've explored how Little Manitou Falls has been shaped by both natural and human forces. But what about the future? What challenges might this place face in the years to come, and what role can we play in shaping that future?
That's a great question. We've talked about issues like habitat loss and climate change, but there are other factors to consider as well, like the impact of increased tourism. How do we make sure that the beauty and wonder of Little Manitou Falls are preserved for future generations to enjoy?
It's a tough balance finding ways to make these natural wonders accessible without ruining them. It requires planning, responsible stewardship, and a willingness to prioritize long-term sustainability over short-term gains.
It's a challenge we all share. So as you plan your next adventure, or even just think about the places that are important to you, consider this. How can we make sure that the stories of Little Manitou Falls and all the natural wonders out there continue to inspire and amaze people for generations to come?
It's a question worth thinking about, and one that we hope this deep dive has helped you explore in a new way.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Little Manitou Falls. We hope you've enjoyed it. And remember, the exploration doesn't stop here. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep looking for those unexpected connections that make the world such a fascinating and amazing place.